and join us and have a chat. And obviously, I know, Randy, you're going to be heading off shortly, so why not? Let's have a party.
I always leave parties early. I'm a driver, so.
Is this the truth party?
Oh,
yeah.
of course.
This is the truth party.
Oops, that doesn't work too well.
No, they don't like the truth. They like the lies. There's no alcohol at this party either. No alcohol and drugs. But yeah,
so,
no.
Kim, you're not sounding too much like a man, and you sound very alive to me.
You better explain that statement.
I said, you're not sounding too much like a man this time on the call, and you sound very much alive to me, given recent comments.
I am very much alive. Yeah. And I'm definitely not, nor have I ever been, nor am I thinking about being a man.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Is this one of these many accusations that has been going around the internet? And, okay, and I suppose war next. Thomas, you're going to be a woman. Randy, you're going to be a woman. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that rumor's already out there. The agency planted that one years ago.
Well,
thanks, guys.
If anybody calls me a woman, I'll hit you with my handbag. Well, okay?
Yeah.
But, okay, so where are we going forward? I mean, the great thing is that we can all get together and we can all have a great chat and we can try and educate the people. But people need to take their own power. They need to start working on themselves. On the shadow side, I know we've said it time and time again. And because things are moving on, you know, I mean, the planet is apparently ascending. The energies are changing. We're all being affected by it in some way. And I have said it before, time and time again, on OIM and Circle of Whitelight, about looking at the 6 people around you. If they add positivity to your life, that's great. If there are any one of them is negative, you have to take them out, because positivity breeds positivity, and that's what you need. You need to support each other, and this is the idea of the THI groups as well, that we all get together like-minded. We might have a difference of opinion, but we're open-minded to listening to each other and listening to what information people are saying. And I have to say, the THI meetings have been very constructive. The Zoom meetings and even meeting in person. It's great meeting people and being together and speaking about everything and anything. And nobody's turning around and having a go. And nobody's giving out and going, well, I don't believe that. That everybody's open-minded enough to actually entertain the thought without accepting it, which is what myself and Steve always call the fluid belief system. So, you know, Kim, give us your feedback on where things are going. Where are you seeing things at the moment? How are you seeing things?
Well, you know, from my standpoint, I've reached out to everyone from the Federal Reserve to this government and that government, and I don't really see a whole lot of progress with banks and governments, and I think the way forward is just us by ourselves. And what I mean by us is the other 99% of the people on the planet that have technologies, have a way forward, have ideas, ways to change this planet. You know, there is a new plan in place, which Thomas and I have been talking about, trying to somehow get out there for distribution, but it's all about restoration. It's been agreed. We're not going backwards. And these people have had meetings, even, for example, all weekend this weekend, about how they're going to maintain power and control. It just doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
You know, it's the illusion game. You know, I said to you earlier, they have no plan. And the reason they have no plan is they can't facilitate a plan where they will give us X amount or a portion, but they can't control it. And most of the recent calls Kim's had is they can't come up with a plan where they can pacify us in a certain way, and they control it. Because you know there's been a vast amount of work that's been done by Kim and the team where we've cut everything off. You know, the back doors, you name it. They don't have control of the banking system anymore. They don't have control of the currency. You know, and this is why you're getting Libras and blockchains and Bitcoins. They're creating anything out of fresh air because that's the only thing they can control, but it won't work. And these people don't get that yet. You know, the problem's not the top end. Those people are complete psychopaths. They're always going to be psychopaths. It's the minions that are running the system for them. You know, it's about time they started realizing you're not getting paid on your monopoly money known as Sims, Dings or Dongs. You're just not. You know?
Let me kick in here because I do have to duck out. My company's arrived. The greatest enemy that humanity has is humanity itself divided.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the people out there who have attacked
100%.
and attempted to take down an operation that they clearly don't understand to stop for a minute and begin to hold space for reasonable conversations and allow things to emerge from an organic process rather than the mind control system that you grew up in. If you can do that, we can begin the embrace again and we can work together and we can defeat the enemy together because there's a hell of a lot more of us than there are of them.
Yep. Yeah.
The problem is that
I'm going to drop off here. I just want to say thanks, Alan. Thanks, Thomas. And thank you, Kim. I love you guys, and I honor the space that we share together.
Okay, Randy, have a good one. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks, Randy.
The problem is with what Randy said there, unfortunately, is that they're getting paid not to wake up, not to understand, not to try and study what's going on, not to try and analyze. They're just given a salary, told what to do, and keep quiet and do what you're told.
Well, that's their choice. Everyone has a choice. You know, are you going to accept a blood money paycheck? Because essentially that's what they're doing. It's a blood money paycheck. You know, Kim's been offered funds to step down, but it's blood money. You know, it's not natural life. It's not the way life should be. We all know that. Anyone who listens to the show knows life's not the way it should be and not the way it was meant to be. You know, and you've got military people and agency people all saying the patriots. Well, if you're that patriotic, you would have fixed your own country. You know, militia people, they're the same. You know, they've been doing something on the internet for most of the last decade. What have they done? Nothing.
Well, one of the things you said on your show, which I found, which I have to agree with you on, is that you have these people who have certain issues going on in their own countries, and they're hypocrites by turning around and telling other countries what to do.
Yeah, because it's all a harvesting system. You know, the very fact, you know, that America is the latest country or name to be used in the global system. Countries don't matter to the clans and to the order in the system. They're just tools to be used. You know, we had the Dutch in the past, we had the British, we had the Romans, you name it. They just, America is the military. We've been in 60 to 80 countries since World War II, and yet not one of them has attacked us.
Yeah.
And it's up to the people to go, hang on a minute, why are we doing that? Why did we go in Vietnam? Well, why did we go in Iraq? Well, it's the same thing again. For certain agency groups, connected to the Five Eyes and the P2 and all the other, the Vatican, you name it, and the Crown, so they get more money, they get more resources, they get more control. And that's the whole system. You know, but the people in it really need to have a reality check. If you're working for the CIA or the NSA and you're spying on your own people, you've got to question your own conscience.
But then again, if you go back to what you said about the difference between organic human beings and clones and bots and everything else, if these people don't have any empathy and have no morals and are just doing what they're told, then, as you said, some of the police officers in America, and probably worldwide as well, are hired. I know over in Ireland, we were told that they're looking for people that, people that will join the police force that don't have any empathy, because that's ideal for them when it comes to crowd control and all that kind of stuff. They won't be empathizing with the actual population at all. So if that is the same process with when they hire people for the CIA, FBI and everything else, then trying to talk and educate these people to get them to think about what they're doing is going to be a fruitless exercise.
But you always have to try, don't you?
Well, yeah, I totally agree. Because Kim has made massive strides. There's a lot of people who now are seeing some of the truth. It's nowhere near what the average THI or off-planet radio or Circle of Whitelight member has. So it has worked to a point. Kim went into the RV crew, and one of the leaders of the RV was Tank. And Tank listened and gave him his due, saw through the illusion and stepped away. Well, that's how you do. You got to break down the barriers. So you should never try, because the consequences of not trying. It's like people saying, I'll let Kim speak. It's like people saying, why is Kim giving the government money? Well, the streets are going to be chaos and guns and shootings and deaths everywhere. It doesn't, Kim.
Part of the issue is you go through this educational process. Like, as an example, last week, the Federal Reserve called the diplomatic line thinking they were going to reach Rothschild or somebody else. And I answered the phone, right, which connects directly to the system. And I said, how can I help you? Your contract has expired. Are you wishing to renegotiate? This is Kimberly, and, I went through the whole thing. It took them 20 minutes to answer because they were not expecting me. So eventually they answered. They said they need their leverage against the funds. And I said, well, we can do something on a temporary basis, right? So we had sent out some money to a couple of banks here in the country, and then they called Mr. Powell and said, well, they want to clear X amount of dollars. What is it going to cost? And they came back with a number. I said, okay, no problem. And I sent that number within 20 minutes. Now, you've got a bunch of Chinese dragons and whatever that have been promising them money for years, right? And nothing has ever come. It's always Monday, Wednesday, Friday, rinse and repeat. And so I'm the first one that actually performed for them immediately. And they said that they would clear those funds the very next day. This was later on in the afternoon. Next day rolls around, and I still don't have my funds cleared, and they have their money. And so I called back and I said, well, what are we doing here? Well, we're having software issues and whatnot. And I said, okay. And they said, well, what about all of this Chinese money? And I said, well, I'll give you 1 hour, compile a file of every account and SKR and everything you could possibly have been given by these people, and I'll give you free reign in the system to verify everything. So they came back in about, maybe an hour, 2 hours, went in and verified that none of these people have any access to any of the things they presented. And they went through hundreds of accounts. So they agreed. To clear the funds. Now we have software problems. Now we have this problem. Now we have that problem. I gave them till Friday at 5 p.m. or I was taking the money back. So I took the money back on Friday at 5 o'clock, and they were all in meetings all day Friday and Saturday and today trying to figure out what they're going to do. So, they already went through the educational process. They had some economists in there. They discussed crypto coins. They discussed dinars and dongs and RVs and currency resets and all kinds of different things. And the only conclusion they've come to thus far is none of that is going to work. Same thing, the agencies were all in meetings this weekend globally, and militaries globally were also in meetings all weekend. all these head generals. And nobody's come up with a plan. Nobody's come up with any ideas. Thus far, maybe they've got a few ideas on how to siphon some more money out of the system. But at the end of the day, it's not enough.
Well, the question
it's not enough.
The question I get, Kim, and you can answer this one. When I tell people about the idea of THI and the foundation and yourself and Thomas, a statement that was made to me was, there's loads of people around the planet saying that they're in charge of the foundation and they have access keys to the money and everything else. So, what would your opinion would be on that? Now, I know for a fact that you have the keys and you've proven it time and time again, but just for these people who say that, make that statement.
Well, they can say whatever they want to say, but where are you? In other words, what are you doing? If you purportedly have codes and keys and, I don't know, that you're something incarnate or another interpret biblical character here, where are you? And what are you doing? So if you have an intention to do something, then do it. In reality, the back system is locked. There are administrators and whatnot that work, right? They're not agency people. They're not even people you would recognize walking down the street. Let's put it that way. But we're all cooperating and we all work together. Where is the rest of the humans?
Yeah,
where is humanity?
Well, here you go. Steve said he read an article there. Steve, my co-host from Open Your Mind Radio, and Steve said on the article, again, his typical information out there, it states that the Man of World Holding Trust, aka MWHT, is a Russian-led organized crime group that uses a USA-fed routing number to rob banks. Have you heard of that one?
No, I haven't, but number one. But number two, there is, it is not a Russian-led group. The trust used to have several hundred names. Some of them you see on the internet. Spiritual White Boy, which used to be called Morning Star, which is Lucifer. Okay? That no longer exists, that section. Then you had Rothschild Trust, the Triple X System, Alpha Omega, the UN Fund, the IMF, all of these organizations used to have and used to be supported by the trust.
Heritage funds, the Lee family, the Baruch family, the Rockefeller family, Rothschild family. You had some Egyptian groups in there. Israeli groups in there. Some of the names, Thomas, you've seen in some of the books that I have of accounts. And they're names that you would recognize on the, on the news in the past. Number one. Number two, there was a new plan that was approved and accepted by everyone except for the order. And it's the Restoration Plan. I wrote the Restoration Plan myself, taking a lot of ideas from a lot of different people, and then it was presented. A group that attends these Harvest Moon meetings was very frustrated with their own people because no one came up with a plan. Yep.
And so finally, 2 days go by, and they asked me for a plan. I said, well, of course I have a plan. Here it is. And it was accepted and approved. Told me go ahead and go forward. Okay. They gave me 5-6 months to get started on the plan, or they were going to intercede and, how do you say it in a nice way, help with the plan. So that's kind of where we're at, and that was on the 15th of September. So in conjunction with that plan, you have, for example, larger sections like science, very broad term, but you break it all the way down to, for example, the American Medical Research and Development Fund, American People's Research and Development Fund, right? Then you have the same one for Ireland, the same one for the United Kingdom. You have the same one for South Africa, and it's repeated throughout every single country. You have something else called the Remediation and Reclamation Fund, the American People's Remediation and Reclamation Fund. You have the American Cybersecurity Fund. You have the American National Defense Fund. And defense fund can be broken down into infrastructure or base repair and whatnot. Technological advances in that particular field go throughout every single field and every single country. So, for example, you have Ireland's People Fund, so on and so forth. So the trust has been split into hundreds of thousands of parts. It is no longer mono.
Okay. We have a couple of questions in, and I'm going to pass them to both of you and get your take on it. Right, Shane has a question, wants to know, can you ask Thomas and Kim if Trump will win his battle with the deep state? Because I think people are on the fence at the moment with Trump. You mentioned on your show, Thomas, about whether he's going to be involved in the next election, and the fact that Kim is there offering certain facilities and ways to actually help, improve America, and he's just kind of sitting on the fence and not doing anything.
Well, it is difficult in the environment because he's surrounded by crazies and people who know better and don't want to learn any better either. Personally, and this is my opinion, I feel after 3 years he should have done a bit more. He was given, in my opinion, he's been given more knowledge and more evidence and more support from the people side of things than any other president in history. And, he's sending all kinds of flyers out for donations for this, that and the other, for his campaign. Well, if he implemented one or two of the things that Kim has given him, that we worked on, he wouldn't need to campaign. He wouldn't need donations. And the man's in trouble because he should have, in my opinion only again, he should have arranged by now some sort of a group around him that could have impacts. He keeps complaining about the Federal Reserve. Well, shut them down. There's numbers of bills that can be used of national security. I wrote a piece yesterday for the next show. The Federal Reserve is a national security issue. It's a major national security issue. And we're allowing them to stay at what is a foreign entity to stay on our shores. And we're allowing an offshore entity known as the IRS to harvest all our funds.
Well, the other thing people don't understand is that, the Federal Reserve governs 148 countries' currencies.
Yeah.
And if you look at how many countries in the world have their own individualized currency, meaning not the euro, not the British pound, that's most all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're looking to unring a very big bell.
I'm going to be devil's advocate here, but is it possible that Trump is not doing this because there's something going on that maybe you and Kim are not aware of? Is that possible?
Oh, entirely possible. I know that he's trying, but, remember, there's nothing for the last 100 and some odd years good that's come out of Washington, D.C. We finally got a guy there who's trying to take care of America first. And he is trying. But, it's an uphill battle. Every time he tries to do something positive, he's also being fed a lot of misinformation for some reason in the last 60 to 90 days.
Yeah.
From who, I don't know, but absolutely all this stuff with Israel and Iran and all of this stuff, that's all a lot of misinformation. But, he is the president, but he's not God. He doesn't have all the answers all of the time. It would be nice if there were people to help.
Yeah. Look at, we both are aware that he fired Mnuchin twice. And Mnuchin turned around and says, I don't work for you. Well, and this is what you're dealing with. And if the American people understood how little power your alleged government, which is not a government, has or can do, then we might have some sort of a revolution within the people, preferably not with violence. That's what they want anyway. They always want that discord.
But the people know this, Thomas. The thing is, I had Kathy Sinnott on my show 2 weeks ago. She was an ex-MEP in Europe. And she said that she was over there when the Lisbon Treaty was, they were bringing in the Lisbon Treaty for Ireland. The first time we voted no, everybody said no, we didn't want it. And they said, oh no, you got it wrong, that's not the answer we want. And they asked us again, and conveniently the answer was yes. And she said that she knows that they wanted the answer yes, regardless it was going to get a yes, even if they had to rig the voting. The people in Europe wanted that, and they didn't have any power whatsoever to do anything. That's what they wanted, and that's the level of control they have. And people knew that. We all felt that the system was rigged. But yeah, it carries on. People still, oh yeah, sure, what can you do? You know.
Well, it's the same as Brexit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just spinning it out. You know, and that's a testimony to the people in the alt media, because you know, I've said it on the show, politicians don't discuss policies anymore.
No.
They just don't. The media don't discuss politics anymore. They discuss drama. He said, she said. You know, there's no journalists anymore.
They're not even talking to us, the people, anymore.
No.
They're talking to each other. They're having fights on television all over the world. Doesn't matter what country you're sitting in. They're talking. They're having a talk with each other. No one is addressing the rest of us. And they're supposed to be, well, in the United States, it's called the House of Representatives. Who are they representing?
Yeah.
The houses.
It's
the deep state.
Themselves. I mean, Ireland is a microcosm of everything else that's out there. All the other countries, the same thing. The politicians don't even bother knocking on doors anymore because they know they're going to get a mouthful from the people, and they're not interested. I mean, I don't know, many times I've said it on OAM, and I'll say it on Kel. The politicians have never cared about you, and they never will care about you. All they want to do is they want to get in for the 4 or 5 years. This is how it works over here in Ireland, and they get their salary for 4 or 5 years and they get a nice big pension at the end of it, and that's it. And they kick the ball down the road for the next gullible guy to come in and take over, and they're just told what to do. They're all actors. They're all followers, as you would say, Thomas, of a program that does not exist anymore. And of course they don't know what to do, so they're just following that program or told what to do by the minions in Europe.
But let me ask you a question, right?
Yeah.
Not just you, all the people listening, right? If you hired a lawyer to represent you in a court case, let's just say as an example, and they did a bad job, would you continue to pay them? Would you continue to keep them as your representative? No, you'd fire them. We can't do anything about the people in the government because we're not even voting for these people anyway. Let's be real.
Yeah, and
but
of course.
Why can't you just choose to represent yourself? Yeah. You have every right to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and more people in Ireland are actually becoming lay litigants and standing up. But here's what happened in Ireland, Kim. I'll just give you an idea of how corrupt Ireland is. We have the Master of the High Court, a guy called Edmund Honohan, and he was the guy that kind of, not that he stood up for the lay litigants, but he made sure that when solicitors and the bankers came in, that their paperwork was up to scratch, and if it was any way incorrect, he would have a go at them. And the bankers and the bankers and the solicitors for the likes of the banks and corporate companies did not like Edmund Honohan, because him being the master, he was making sure everything was above reproach, that all the paperwork was right. And what did they do? They got rid of him because he was causing too much trouble. This is what happens in Ireland. But
see, you're going into their house. Okay, and this is in every culture in the world. If you walk into somebody else's house, it's their rules.
Yeah.
It's always their rules. I mean, even, you know, from taking your shoes off, right? If you're going to visit someone and in their house, everybody takes their shoes off, you take your shoes off, right? Mm. Why are you going into their house and fighting them in their house? Why are you going into their banks and then complaining that you're not being treated fairly?
Well, the issue is the thuggery. What happens is, if you don't go in and you say, I do not consent, I'm not getting involved in this, then you will get the thugs knocking at your door, pulling you out, and giving you, roughing you up a little bit. And this is what happens. And obviously, the police are no different. Over here we have, our Gardaí get trained 6 months. And I'm pretty sure, now this is just my own opinion, I'm not going to say that this happens, but I have a feeling that NLP techniques are probably used in there, because they all come out as clones of each other. And they turn up, and they're the thugs. They so it's like, do you know that the story of in slavery, you had the servants in the house, and then you had the servants, the slaves in the field. And as long as the servants in the house, the slaves in the house, did what they were told, they wouldn't be thrown out into the field. And that's what the Gardaí are like. They're told what to do, and they don't seem to respect their own ignorance, in all honesty. And this is the problem. They're told what to do, and, they say, well, I'm just doing my job. Well, Randy said it earlier, it didn't work out too well in Nuremberg when they used that excuse.
Well, again, and you can't, there's a whole system in place, and it goes much higher and much deeper than most people think. And from the way the police force reacts to get their funding, to actually have, uniforms and whatnot, right? Everything they need, right? Computers and there's a politician that has an agreement with some company that may provide them with faulty equipment, right? But there's an agreement and a kickback and all these things that take place. But you're expecting them to fight the system against their own job, for their own, right? Yeah. So on the flip side of it, there's a whole new system yet to be explored, and it's one that you create yourself. If you work within the gray, meaning the gray of the law, right? Not this sovereign man thing or anything like that, because that's only going to get you. You're going into their court telling them they have to change their court. And half of them don't even understand what you're talking about. No point. All you're going to do is take away your own rights, meaning your right to travel, right? Your passport, your driver's license, the right to drive a car. I don't care if I carry a driver's license or a passport, but I do care if I feel like going on a trip somewhere, I can go do that, right? So I don't care about their paying this money to get this booklet, and if I didn't have this booklet, now I can't go anywhere, and the only person that's hurting is me, because the government certainly doesn't give a flying lead. So there's a new system, okay? It's one that you create yourself and other like-minded people, meaning our goals are feed the people, right? Make sure everybody has shelter. Make sure everybody has a good job with good wages. No one's going to tell you how to run your own company, right? If you want to pay somebody and only making 5% profit or 10% profit, which is more than enough to support you and your family, now you're supporting 100 other families too. It doesn't necessarily even cost you a lot of money. It may cost you, you're keeping up with the Joneses lifestyle, but it doesn't cost you and your family much of anything. You've got more than enough for your own family. You're now supporting all these other families. You're feeding a few people here and there. You're giving some people, like you guys did with the blankets and the backpacks. It's a new system. And if all the people just got together and created their own system, we don't need to care who's in office. We don't need to care who's sitting in what chair. I don't care what Pelosi has to say, or Brexit people, or the Russian president is going to do this or that. The only people that are going to save ourselves is ourselves. There isn't anyone coming.
No.
Totally agree.
So we need to come be the change for our own selves. I don't want to go to court and talk about a technology or this or that. because I know it's never going to happen. I'm not going to file a patent because I don't care if anybody takes it.
Yeah. Well, Thomas's idea, when Thomas originally talked about the $1 a month idea, I mean, that is so simple, and everybody could get behind that. And if somebody, and I've said it before, if somebody cannot afford $1 or €1 a month, then I'll give it to them if they're that bad. But that idea, nature makes things very simple. Man complicates things by ego because they think they can do things better than God can do it. But basically, or source, I'll say source, because God's a different thing. But the $1 a month idea is genius. It really is a genius idea. Everybody could get involved and just donate €1, and then there could be like the THI group, for example. Every THI group in Ireland or around the world in each country, if everybody donated €1, everything's transparent, all the paperwork can be seen, the accounts can be seen, so, because people get concerned about that.
Yeah.
So make everything transparent, everybody can see what's going on. €1 a month, how many people could we help with that money? And that's not even going near the governments or the police or anything, we're just doing our own thing and creating our own system. And I still don't understand why people have a problem with it. Because
they don't understand it. And the alt media is full of people taking money and then writing blogs and articles and going to Indonesia and spending $25,000 on tequila and hookers. Okay, that happened. In this particular, and it's not anybody on this line.
I'm glad you said that.
In this particular case, the whole purpose behind it is this. If you have a 501(c) in America, right, or a tax or a foundation that is considered to be, that dollar is considered to be a tax deductible dollar. Just like when you donate to the United Way or any of these other large breast cancer foundations and whatnot, right? $1. Okay, and if you have a family of 4, then it would be $4. You see, you got to compensate for your minor children, for example. In the United States, that's $370 some odd million a month. A month. Well, and you're going to either pay it to the IRS or you're going to pay it into an organization where you have a say where that money actually goes. You have a vote. You actually have a voice. You see? Yeah. So the whole idea behind it was you can either pay the government and then watch all these CNN people talk to each other about where your dollar's going, right? Which we all know it doesn't go there anyway. Or you take that, you get a receipt from the 501(c), whichever one it is, THI or People's Club or whatever it is you're doing, and you get a receipt. So you take that receipt and you file it with your taxes at the end of the year or on April 15th or whatever date it is in your country where you're listening from. And you don't have to pay the government that dollar or that $10, that $5 or whatever it is you're choosing to do. But yet, you get together once a quarter or once a month and you all vote on how you're going to spend your $378 million a month.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people you can affect with $378 million a month?
Yeah.
That's billions of dollars a year. You can build roads. You can build schools. You can change the way your children are taught through a charter school. As an example, in the United States, a charter school, only requires that you have proper nutrition and handicap accessibility. They don't govern your curriculum. So if you really want to make a change, teachers listening, build a charter school with your $378 million. Guarantee it's only going to cost a couple $1 million.
Yeah. No,
make the change. The people.
It's just so much, but maybe that's it. Maybe because the idea is so simple, people don't get it. Maybe, I don't know. I just don't know. It's such a great idea that we could.
It doesn't matter if you form 100 million of these nonprofit organizations and everybody puts their own dollars into their own nonprofit. It's called a family foundation versus an open foundation, meaning only members of your family can donate. Therefore, you're not violating the foundation rules, right?
Yeah.
And then all the foundation owners all get together once every 3 months, and they take their own bank statements forward to the table, and then you all vote who's going to put their money towards X or Y.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants to be in control, right? Because everybody's been so out of control of their own lives for so long. I get it. So bring everybody to the party. If you want to be in control of your own taxes, your own things, and your own foundation, great.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but as long as everybody does it. If everybody does it, you don't need me. You don't need the trust. You don't need the government. You don't need anybody. I mean, of course, you got to follow the rules. Don't speed, you know, no drinking, driving, all of these things which keep us safe anyway. But no one's going to bother you.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's all above board and it's all legal in their system.
That's right. But yet you're created a whole new system out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem is the programming. You know, we think anything that comes from the people is a scam. And yet they're participating in scams every day of the year. You know, the American people, we've been told, or sufficient have been told, that the IRS is voluntary. Now, I'm not telling people to not pay it, because individually they'll hammer you and put you in jail. Look, if the whole country turn around and go, you said it's voluntary and we're not paying. And that's what can happen when you combine the groups, and that's part of the THI state groups.
But give the pigs their money, you know? You're allowed to donate to Breast Cancer Foundation, right?
Yeah.
You're allowed to donate, and then you're allowed to take that as a tax deduction.
Yeah.
So give them their money. We the people with the right minds and the right creativeness and the right connection to source itself, we don't need their money. They can have it. You see?
Yeah.
It's what we do with ours that counts.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, but, you know, they'll say, oh, it's a scam. You know, you had that email which says people think it's a scam. And yet they contribute $2, €2, $5, €10, whatever, to the lottery every week, which is another tax. You know, none of it goes back to the people.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to create a lottery whereby it would require a lot of people participating, where it involves certain prizes will pay your home insurance for a month or a year, or your taxes for a quarter or a year, based on how many numbers you got, and the top prize would be to pay the house off. Yeah, and that's a great idea. You know, these are things we can all get involved in. There's just basic ideas where you know the funds are going to pay your home insurance, pay your taxes, or pay your house off if you win the top prize. And yet people are given $2 for the lotto or whatever it's called, the Powerball. And even when they get three numbers, what do? They don't put the $3 or $4 where they've gained something. They started off with $2, they come back with $4. Now, I'll have another ticket. Yeah.
Or check the box on your taxes, $1 to donate to the blah blah campaign, or the St. Jude's Foundation at the local it's Walgreens here, but it's Boots I think over there. But it's the same thing. I mean, we're willing to do that because we think of children that are dying of cancer, and that's great. But what about the guy that just needs funding for the cure for cancer? Why don't you talk to that? Well, we had to.
I'll have to jump in here on that, Kim, because we already had David Noakes and his partner Lynn, who had he put together GC Math to actually, and he cured. And I'm going to say the word cured, or maybe remission, of loads of people with cancer. And now she's in a French jail, and they're trying to jail him as well. This is what they do. This
came out the same as the guy in Brazil.
Everybody's talking about it. Yeah. Everybody is talking about it on the phone, on the radio shows. everybody's looking for that recognition. It's not recognition that you need. You do things quietly.
Yeah.
That's what the Russians do. I mean, they have all kinds of cures for all kinds of things, and they're treating all their people every day. There's stem cell things that have been going on in Mexico since the 80s. But nobody here in the States, everybody's arguing with all these politicians to get it passed to make it legal. Why? If you got $378 million, right, in a month, you can send hundreds of people to Mexico to go get stem cell treatment. Why do you have to talk to these people? You see? That's the difference.
It's the same in Cuba. Cuba had it was fairly expensive, but they had a cure for eczema. But it actually cured it, not dealt with the symptoms of it. It cured it.
Yeah.
And they tried to get it on the export license. No chance. And Kim spoke to a guy and the trust was going to fund $10 billion for the whole village. And Kim can talk more about that. But this guy has been curing cancer for a long time, including heads of state. But,
Yeah. No.
Suddenly the clowns come in and say this is bogus, this is rogue, and they're rogue and they're frauds, and that's how they do it. But it's up to the people to go, no, we want to have a look at that.
Yeah. Again, it's waking people up. Tash, who's a THI member, has a question and a suggestion, and she said, THI Ireland start a community fund on these lines with the intention of building one of Thomas's villages. Be fantastic, I think we can start off small. Something like that would be quite big. But we can start off small. Even if we got 100,000 people donating €1 a month, that's 100,000 coming in a month. The amount of groups and amount of things that we can do, even with 100,000, would be incredible, because Ireland only has a population of 4.5 million people. So we're a small country, but we could do a lot with that in Ireland with that money.
Even
sure.
5%. If everyone did it, you've got 4.5 million. Even if 10%, you've got 450,000.
I think the fear with most people is that when they donate, they're going, oh well, here's another donation system, and are people going to rip off the money or pay themselves big salaries and admins and all that? And the whole idea of the THI model is to think different. And I think everybody in THI Ireland and THI groups around I won't say all of them, but a handful of THI groups around the different countries understand it, they get it, and the whole idea is to not to be out there getting the ego stroked and saying, look how good we are and look how brilliant we are. Just get on and do it. That's it.
Or bring the person forward, right? So if you have a person that's going to be homeless, let's say, they're about to take their house and the house is in foreclosure, you bring them forward to your THI meeting, you all do a call, right? And if you all decide that that's what you want to do, then everybody donates their dollar to this person's mortgage, right? Directly. No one has to give anybody else any money to make it work. But you all voted, you all decided it's what you were going to do. Now everybody has to take the personal responsibility to take their dollar and put it towards Jim Jones' mortgage. You send it directly to the mortgage company or the insurance company or whatever else it is. Believe you me, when it comes to paying someone's electric bill, they don't care if it comes from Bozo the Clown, as long as it's paid.
Exactly, yeah.
And, if everybody donates a quarter or whatever it is you decide to pay this elderly person's bill, and, look them in the face, go make a Zoom call and have them plead their case to you.
Yeah. And of course,
that was what I've said, when the funds comes out, THI transfers to the People's Club, and the shows would be about work that's been done. So it becomes self-promotional in many ways. Look, like what you did, Alan, with the blankets and the homeless people. There's your proof of actions taken, and then word of mouth gets out very, very quickly. These people are actually helping us. And once it goes viral, which can range from 3% to 10%, it changes. If people think that, well, I don't want to give $1, but why are you giving $2 for the lottery ticket, which you know full well the chances of winning are slim to none.
Or $5 for coffee in Starbucks, which...
Yeah, well, in that $2, everybody wins. The people win.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
It may not be you, but eventually, as it expands, we talked about the circles and connecting circles. As it expands, it will impact all, because it will just keep growing. And, that's the gist of it.
Okay.
Need, not greed.
We have a question on the chat room there. Well, it's a statement more so saying we can't pay debt with debt, just aggravating it.
Well, that is a long-term issue. I agree. We should have an asset-based trading system. I agree that we should have gold-backed currencies or some kind of medium that people can touch, taste, and feel. But at this moment, where we're all sitting, right, the people, where we're all sitting is the changes we can make. Okay, so let's just say, and let me give you an example. So if Trump gets on TV today, this evening on the evening news, and he tells everybody the United States has now gone back to a gold standard, and we have X amount of metric tons of gold on deposit, and it's backing all the dollars in the world. Okay, that's good, right? But how does that change your life? Is it going to take that dollar that's in your pocket and make it worth more? Can you buy more bread for your family? What can you do with your now gold-backed dollar or U.S. note or Treasury Reserve note or Hostess Twinkie or whatever your currency is? The answer is nothing. It's not going to save your house from foreclosure. It's not going to buy you a plane ticket to go see your family. It's going to do nothing for you. But fixing that road so you can get to work, or fixing your car that keeps breaking down, or getting someone a new car, or maybe helping a veteran get a handicap package for their car so they can actually drive again and have some sense of independence. This is what you can do. That is what the People's Club was designed to do. $1 a month, tax deductible. Put the dollar in, then everybody votes if Jim Jones can get a handicap package for his vehicle or a new car or another car. You see?
Yeah, no,
you're going to pay it to the IRS anyway, and then it's just like throwing it out the window. You get nothing out of it.
Of course, and I'd love to be able to do that. Myself and Steve enjoyed doing that, getting involved with the homeless charities and doing the bits and pieces that we've done and other projects that we've been involved in. It was very satisfying, and the fact that it was purely to help out, and unfortunately the things that we did, obviously, that we didn't advertise, and there's other things that you have to do and let people know, because it has to be transparency. So there's other things that we've done that we didn't say that we did. But we both enjoyed doing that. It was just nice to know that you're helping your fellow human being, and there's nothing coming back. We don't want anything back from it or anything else. It's just purely to help out. And thanks to the listeners who donated the money to help us for us to do that. And we'd love to be able to do more of that, but unfortunately we don't have the funds to do that. I don't have the funds to do that at the moment, so I can't do any more of that. But this is the whole idea of why I set up Patreon with Circle of Whitelight as well. If the funds came in, then I would be doing that, and then I'd be obviously reporting back to the listeners as to the projects that I've been involved in, or get THI involved, where we'd now get involved in and get projects done. And build it up, like a snowball going down a hill. I'd like to be able to build that up. But how do you convince people that that's what you want to do, and that's how easy it is to do it? I don't know. I really don't know. Because
they're welcome to join you.
Yeah.
They don't have to, okay, so if their $1 a month would buy 10 sleeping bags or whatever it is you're choosing your project is, right? then drop a sleeping bag off at this address or mail it here or whatever. I mean, we don't need, you see what I'm saying? Go to your thrift store and buy some clothing. You'll put a list of the items. If you don't want to give money and you don't believe in giving money, then do that. Or show up on the day of the event. Right? Donate your dollar, goes towards everything. Show up on the day of the event and help us. Right? Or help you.
Yeah.
In this particular case. No one's stopping anybody. No one has to believe the pictures on the internet that this actually happened. Go.
Get involved. Yeah. Get involved. It's
You can donate airline miles to people. People can get hotel rooms with airline miles or hotel points or, there's all kinds of mediums out there to help someone get off the street for the night.
Okay, well listen, I'm going to just stop you there for a minute. I'm going to let people know that we are coming to the top of the hour, and basically we're going to have to leave people on PIR because we're going to carry on for another 30 minutes. Thanks to Thomas and Kim, but we are going to take a little bit of a music break for now, so let people have a toilet break or put the kettle on, have a cup of tea, and then we're going to do an extra 30 minutes. So if you just bear with us for a minute, we'll go off to a musical break and we'll be back after this. Okay folks, we're back. We're doing an extra 30 minutes. We're with Thomas from THI and Kim from the Foundation. We had Randy on earlier, but he had to go and do a few things there. But we're going to hang around for another 30 minutes, thanks to Thomas and Kim. And we're going to talk about what's going on in the world. Now, there is a question here that's in, Thomas, and it's off the beaten track, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. And Peter wants to know, what landed in Chile, a mysterious fireball that crashed in Chile is not meteor, scientists say. Do you think it was?
I have no idea, but it's funny. Some of the machines were down in that region, and so I would suggest there's a possibility it was something to do with the SSP.
So anything kind of aerial, would you point to the SSP for that?
Most of the craft that are flying around are connected with the SSP. And the SSP are not good in any way, shape or form, despite what the two alt media clans tell you.
Okay, something to bear in mind. So just before the break, we were talking about the whole euro idea or the dollar idea for donations. We're coming into 2020, and obviously I'm hoping that there's going to be changes and the energy will change and maybe people will see it. Yeah, already has. Okay. When do you think, do you think there was an energy change this year or sometime this year for that?
Yes, several.
Okay.
Several. We had the galactic wave coming in since 2002. That was changing things and people's perspective on life. People then suddenly were having visions and dreams and seeing a different reality and experiencing a different frequency. There's a lot within our own group who have all felt that change, and part of the problem is people forget that has been the change. There's this mindset that change is always the future. Well, the events piece of it proves it's not. It's the past. Technology is the future. No, all of it. There is no new technology. It's all the past. Then, of course, in May of last year, there was the increase in a different type of energy, which is the source-based energy. And there's been incremental increases in that, which we did say the effects of what would happen after that have all unfolded for the people to see. There'll be problems with relationships. There would be people exposing themselves, and we've seen it in vast quantities. And if you work on the self, you have bundles of abilities that are untapped. And this is the gist of what I do with THI, is to get people out of the astral layer, and where their frequency and their DNA, so-called junk DNA, kicks in on the mental planes, providing you are responsible with it. That's the key, because you will lose it. And I've seen people, rather close to me, lose it because they are being irresponsible. Suddenly they think they're God and you can go and wipe this people out and this being out and all this nonsense. You know, and that's the gist, is getting as many people, it's like a salvage operation in many ways, is getting as many people out of the astral, which is the harvesting centre, and onto the mental planes when your so-called junk DNA kicks in. Then you don't look, you see. You don't listen, you hear. And different senses and abilities kick in. And you know, unfortunately, there's only a few who are doing it, compared to the rest of the population at the moment. But everyone has that natural ability. It's not special, it's not super, it's not any one of these superlatives. It's your own natural abilities. This is why I don't particularly like technology. You know, we have all the tools. People realise how important they are and how precious they are. And life force energy, pieces of paper have no value. Life force energy has everything. And that's the gist of what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do with THI, is to empower people to be themselves of what they're supposed to have been. And you, like Kim said earlier, you don't need politicians. You don't need any of their systems when you come into your own sovereignty and recognise your own abilities.
Yeah, I just think that the knowledge has been taken away. We've been all brainwashed. The politicians are there to justify their existence, the nanny state and everything else, and the fact that we're not worthy, and we have to look up them. They're not even leaders; they're just followers. Again,
all of them.
Yeah,
they're all clowns. They're all clowns wearing masks. You know, this is why, you know, you got the film industry and they all have red carpet events and they all slap each other on the back and give each other medals and awards. It's all a distraction program. You know, on the last show, you know, I'm Mary Magdalene, and I'm, what was it, Imhotep. Really? Well, what are you doing?
Sorry, I couldn't help but laugh.
you know, I'm Zeus. So I said to Zeus, why aren't you throwing lightning bolts at the cabal? If you're Zeus, then why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
You know, it's stupid. Did you really think Mary Magdalene would be going around the world chasing RVs?
Yeah.
No. You know, Jesus. If you're going to be Jesus, follow the model, which is not empowering the self. I'm all important. It's about empowering the people. It's an archetype.
Yeah, and also the people that, you know, the people that were in history, and I'll pass this over to Kim. Kim, the people who were involved with the trust before you were involved with it, like of Nelson Mandela, and can you give us the names of these people? Because these people, you know, some of these people are looked up at by the population, think, wasn't that person a great person, or a great man, a great woman? But yeah, if they had access to the trust, and they could have easily released the funds to help their country and help certain people, and they didn't, then they're not such a great person after all. And could you give us the names of a few of these people?
Well, Arafat was one.
Okay.
Oops.
Yeah. John Kennedy.
Oops.
Okay.
Putin. The Li family of China. Gaddafi. Yeah. Gaddafi was another. Bush, Senior, Prescott Bush, also. Marcos. Mm-hmm. Let's go around the world here.
Mandela?
Khomeini.
Yeah.
Khomeini. Mandela. But remember something, though. We could sit here and list names after names after names, and king after king, King Solomon, all the way back. Keep going further. These people were created by my predecessor on this level to be your saviors. And they created also and funded also at the same exact time your boogeymen. So never forget for 1 second that any of these names that we may list, Queen of England, right? Never forget any of these names that we list were paid to be your savior. Now, some of them did a little more good than maybe, but there was also a counterbalance in place at the same time to only allow them to do so much good. Gaddafi went off their radar, right? And when he built that waterways throughout Africa to try to make Libya the breadbasket of Africa, after they had destroyed Ethiopia. Remember, the day, almost to the day, it took him 30 years to build it, and almost to the day that was completed, he died. He was murdered. General Kadiki, who was responsible for his murder, right, was promised that he would be the president of Libya and have access to the trust when they didn't have access anymore. People making promise. Angola, another one. They took all the diamonds out of Angola, transported them to Dubai, and still they're sitting there, hundreds of thousands of carats, and the people of Angola have no money and no food. All they did was steal their stuff. The president of Zimbabwe, it wasn't their token Rothschild guy who was going to assign all their in-ground resources over to the Rothschilds for supposedly wonderful things they were going to do for the country. The birth certificate program out of Belgium with the XN system. You give us all your people's birth certificates and we're going to give you all this money for socio-humanitarian programs, which never really happened. To some extent, maybe, but never really happened. It's all about, my predecessor was a dictator. He would even tell you, if he was still alive to this day, he was a dictator. And he had an intention of being the king of the world. So he convinced all of these trustees, all of these people, to go out and get things that he wanted. Whether it's all the rare earth minerals, for example, that are located in Chile, which you mentioned earlier. The SSP is desperately looking for rare earth minerals anywhere because they need to create fuel to go somewhere that they're not permitted to go anyway. They're trying to continue a program that doesn't exist anymore.
Failed.
So they're looking, failed. They're looking for rare earth minerals because they think China has all of the rare earth minerals locked up, which they don't. To all the Africans listening to this call, we don't. So, there's plenty of rare earth minerals in every country in the world. There's no need to destroy someplace to get them, unless you're trying to get them for free.
Okay, questions. Right. We have about 15 minutes left. 2 questions. Number one, the Brexit, what's going on at the moment with what's happening in them coming out of EU. Is this all pre-planned and organised, and is it to punish the UK for the decision that the people made?
No, it's just stringing people along. I was still in Cosmic Voice when that vote took place. In fact, I announced it live on the show. And I said what would happen. And here we are, 3.5 years later, and nothing's happened. It's a distraction. And when Brexit goes away, they'll come up with another distraction, which is likely Greta Thunberg. It's all spinning the wheels again.
Yeah, and of course it's sleight of hand. They're probably doing something with the other hand while they're saying, "Oh, look
Absolutely.
what's happening over here." Yeah, the sleight of hand.
That's correct.
Okay. Tash, who's a THI Ireland member, wants to know, were the Irish Druids of legend and in his story practicing good beliefs?
Not to my knowledge, no. They were involved in some of the pro-pagan Dar. There's good and bad in everything, you know. People talk about off-world groups and Pleiadians and Arcturians and you know, the Orion group, and people decide, well, because someone came from Orion, or because someone came from, let's use Earth-based. Well, all Germans are Nazis. Well, are they? All Americans are warmongers. Well, are they? No. You know, and so there were elements of these cultures that were good, and they all got inverted. That's the problem. You know, you have the tribal people, the original, you know, they were doing good practices and being in part with nature, and then the hidden hand comes in and corrupts the whole lot of them. And so, you know, the Druids are connected, from my memory, to the Wiccan culture, which are not good either. And you've got a lot of these Wiccan people running around. All of those cultures and tribal people got corrupted with the Kalima, or the Black Sun cult. Same people. Cult of Ra, same thing. Ra, known as the sun, solar god. It's the black sun, not the real sun. You know, and it's sad. You know, you've got a lot of people who like paganism. Well, there's parts of paganism that's okay, but there's a lot of it is corrupted. You know, you could go through all the myths and the stories. You know, some people say that the dragon groups are good, and then you've got an earth-based version of dragon groups that are just clearly not. You know, and so it's difficult, but a lot of things got inverted. The Illuminati, the original Illuminati, called the Gnostics, they got corrupted.
It seems to be the methods they use is that as soon as you have a group that's set up to do good, the infiltration takes place, and then it's the demise of the group, or it's labelled in some way, and that's just how they operate.
Like the Freemasons, you know, they were part of this secret knowledge originally. But would you trust the Freemasons now? Are all Freemasons bad? No. They lack knowledge of what they're actually involved in, which is the Black Sun cult. Cult of Ra.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we have 10 minutes left. Let's look on the positives and what's happening. One of the things that you said I said I'd mention this on the show, so I'm going to throw it in quickly, was about the speeding up of time. We're all feeling it. Also, people are saying that it's like an aircraft going around, circling around the airport, waiting on clearance. Everybody's waiting on something, for something to happen. And you have mentioned about the event horizon and the energy changing. Do you want to kind of clarify what you think is going to happen, or what you feel is going to happen?
We're spinning in a vortex, and we have been for a while, which is why the stars rotate if you do long exposure. From what I can tell and understand, we're coming out of that vortex, and then we have a choice, and that's up to every individual, and most people have already, if not all people, have already made their subconscious choice. Okay,
this is the East and West Gate you're talking about.
Yeah, you can describe it as that. Okay. Or going into the void. You know, that people think, oh, the void, oh, it's all dark, it's all black. Well, no, it's an empty space.
Okay.
With which people have the choice, and it's not just people either. It's all the other beings. With an empty space, you have a choice to create something. The non-creators will fail. The creators, it's like the Looking Glass. It failed. Why? Because that time period was over, and it's up to the people to create a new one. So a void is a space that has no plan, but it's up to the people and the beings to create the plan to take all species forward.
And has the quantum system mapped everybody's intention on the planet?
Okay.
Well, it's something that constantly changes. You've got 5%, in my opinion, maybe even up to 10 on some days, of the people on the planet are just outright evil. And it doesn't matter what color your skin is or where you hail from, it just is. 10% are outright what you would call saintly. They're just wonderful people. They do everything for everybody else, and they're never going to change. And everybody else is somewhere in between. There are days, where it shifts more towards one side than shifts towards the other side. But as it relates to humanity as a whole, the system does have a section called human aptitude. So it will actually map out the thought process and all of these types of things if you wanted to. I really don't use that feature because what is the point? Really, why do we care? In other words, not in a negative way, but just from the standpoint of, well, if we're pumping out more source energy out of the central vortex, right? Okay, we can do that. And maybe we want to monitor the progress of that, right? Are more people waking up? Are more people doing good things? Is something changing? Okay, let's do more, right? Or, wow, that had a negative effect because everybody's going crazy. Well, maybe we shouldn't do so much. But it can monitor those types of things, but it's more preferable to monitor other things and other situations as it relates to restoration and progress. We have a long way to go.
We have a very long way to go. And we talk about
it all comes down to what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Not me, not Kim, not Trump or Putin or this government or this organisation. When you get it down to the brass tacks, it's what you, the individual, are you going to do? And that's the key to it. People say, oh, I'm only one person. Well, no, you're not. If everyone suddenly around the world suddenly decides today, I'm going to care for people, the world changes.
And we can change it. We could change it tomorrow if everybody just changed their thinking.
Yeah, there's no executive order saying not to care for people. None. We do that. So we have the choice. We made that choice to do that, and we have that choice to not do that.
Oh, you know what? I kind of, one of the things that I say from a psychological point of view is, if you're asked to do something and your first thought process is, how can I get out of not doing that, then that kind of gives you an idea where your head is at.
Well, they're takers. They're not givers. And we need more givers and less takers. The taker, anyone who just takes is no different to the cabal. It's just a different level.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. We just need to change. I'm kind of very pessimistic when it comes to the moving from the child mind to the adult mind. I've said that to you before on the show, Thomas. Because it does take a lot to look inside you as an individual and to make that change and to use energy to do it. And in the world you have givers and takers, and I don't know.
But it's taken them far more energy because they're spending 24 hours a day looking outside of themselves for external things. He's doing this, she's doing that. The God is outside of them when it's inside. And everything's external. And it hasn't worked. So if it doesn't work, think and act different, and let's do a different way. Let's go internal and let's care. It's all very simple.
Yeah. I know. So simple. Right, okay. I'll just get a last word from you, Thomas and Kim, and we'll wrap things up and finish there. So give us your last thoughts. I mean, we're coming up to, this is October now, we're coming up to the start of 2020 vision and all that. So what's your prediction for the future, or for at least coming up to next year?
Well, we've made giant progress, and people need to recognise that, not only as a collective, but as individuals. All of you have made enormous progress. Recognise it. You know, it's the external that's fallen apart. Why? It doesn't work anymore. So waiting for Kim or waiting for Trump or Putin or whoever else you want to follow, it hasn't worked. It's not meant to. This is the time of going within and fixing the self, and then encouraging others to do the same, and then combining as a force. That's it.
Okay. Kim?
Well, based on the call today, just remember you have a lot more power than you think you do. As an average everyday person who wants change, please stop focusing on what president's doing what and who's exiting where and all of these things, because at the end of the day, it's not going to change your personal life or the personal life of another person. There's plenty of people in this world with plenty of wonderful technologies, and these are average everyday people. Some of them aren't even scientists, and they just had an epiphany one day of something they could do to change the world. It's all noise. It's meant to distract you as a creative, powerful being from becoming what you could be, and from what we as a society could be. Look here, not there. Well, we take this from you. There's nothing stopping you, realistically, from changing the world. The world has always been changed, whether for the good or the bad, by one person. There are certain things that will live in infamy, that, certain phrases and lines. But remember, at the end of the day, you have the power.
Yeah.
You have it in your hands. And the power comes from unity. Unity with like-minded people. Create the change. Send somebody for stem cell instead of trying to fight the U.S. government to get it. It's all over the world. Everybody's doing it. Make the change in that person's life. Make the change in your own life. Connect with your higher self. Spend 20 minutes a day with yourself. Learn to love yourself before you can love somebody else. It's important. It's about what I have to say.
Okay, no, I really appreciate that. Focus on the things you can change, not the things you can't. I think that's the simple message there. Well, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Thomas and Kim, and obviously Randy, who was on earlier on in the show, for coming on. And I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Great information as usual from everybody concerned. Onwards and upwards. We have 2020 around the corner. We have the end of the year to finish. The energies are changing. People are feeling it, and people are seeing it as well. So there are positives out there. We just need to step up and be leaders and not followers, and to take on board what Thomas and Kim said there, and get involved and change your way of thinking and think different. Take the energy, take the time to do it. For myself, Alan James, this is Circle of Whitelight Radio. Next week, I don't know who the guest is going to be, because it's going to be somebody from the Open Mind Conference anyway. We have it booked in for somebody from the Open Minds Conference. So I'll keep you posted. Watch the schedule on the website, and I'll put the post up there when I find out who it's going to be. But for myself anyway, have a great week. Take it easy, and love each other. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to Circle of Whitelight Radio on circleofwhitelight.com, focusing on solutions and thinking different.